What's going on, everyone? About 60% of stocks in the S&P 500 closed up in the green today. And as we could see by looking at today's heat map, we had stocks like Nvidia, Microsoft, and LLY make some pretty big moves to the upside, while other stocks like Google and Tesla struggled quite a bit. And speaking of Google, we actually have some pretty big news with that company as the Justice Department is going after them for being a monopoly. But as we look at everything right now, the inflation data came out this morning, so that's a good thing because now most of the market movement will be price action based rather than having to wait for one giant data report to come out. But overall, we have some pretty good setups in play right now and a pretty good big money trade towards the end of today's video as well. So besides that, Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, the SPY today was actually pretty good. Overall, it was pretty choppy, but you can see it did push higher. It was up 0.32%, so, respectable, but nothing too crazy. I will say the intraday move from the low to the high this morning off, the 540 support was pretty good. It ended up bouncing from 540 pretty much all the way back up to 545 without stopping. So there were some good intraday opportunities there, and of course, individual stocks had some good opportunities as well. Nvidia did pretty well again today, up in the green again, though from open, kind of choppy. So I know that some of these stocks, Mike, were pretty green today, like Nvidia, whenever we look at the heat map, but a lot of them were mainly moving in pre-market this morning, and then we ended up falling right back off. But I know in pre-market today, we had the CPI reading come out, and you can see that the market didn't really have a major reaction from that. And I'm circling the initial move there from this report. And Mike, the CPI reading came out, and it showed that inflation was actually dropping a bit, which I thought was good. The year-over-year inflation rate went down to 2.9% from 3%, but the CPI did rise slightly.
Yeah, so as we look at the inflation data a little bit more in depth, like you said, inflation is coming down, which is a great thing. And technically speaking, this inflation reading that we saw today was the lowest reading since March of 2021. So that's a great sign. But realistically, today's data wasn't good enough to truly move the markets in either direction. So it was just kind of like a just a data release where no one was really all that surprised or wowed, you can say, and that made for some pretty choppy movement. As we look at the price action of SPY, it'll be very important to avoid this choppy price action because it's just hard to trade in. When you have the market falling a little bit and then popping up, but then once it pops up, it doesn't last very long and it comes right back down. It just makes for a choppy market where it's easy to get faked out. So it's as we go into the market over these next couple days, be aware of this choppiness so you can, avoid it easier. And a lot of times we see volatility cluster, and volatility has been slowing a little bit over the past couple days. So especially don't feel the need to force too many trades right now. Of course, unless the market really heats up tomorrow. But we just want to make sure everyone's aware of this to, I guess you could say make for the best trading opportunities possible.
Yeah, and we do say this quite a bit, Mike, but sometimes, just sitting on the sidelines is the way to go. And I know a lot of traders don't want to hear that, and I especially don't want to hear that either. It's always fun to be in the market, but with the way the SPY's been moving lately, it's been having these days where we'll have these nice run-ups, but then it'll consolidate for a couple days, and we'll have just pretty much no movement. I think today was one of those days, and you can see that on the daily chart where it formed a bit of a wild candle, so to say. It wasn't really like a nice full candle where we closed up at highs or down at lows or anything like that. Very choppy intraday. But I just know, Mike, that if overtrading is a very big deal to a lot of newer traders, and especially on days like this, it can be a little bit hard to trade. But, sticking to these stocks that are moving and the ones that actually have the price action going on is the better way to go. And one of those today was actually Google, with the way that they dropped down 2.35%. At open, Google provided a pretty good opportunity for about the first 40 minutes there.
Big time. It was actually one of the best plays on the SM bot today as well. But talking about Google a little bit more specifically, the Justice Department is eyeing them up in a pretty bad way as they're basically saying, Google, you have a monopoly and you have some things you need to fix. And in the worst case scenario, Google can get broken up. But realistically, this will be I guess you could say a conflict that will take some time to resolve, and some less severe options that Google can face is just by opening up its user data to its competitors and just stopping some of the monopolistic things that they are currently doing. So the main thing to know is that the Justice Department and the government is going after Google, and this is not good for them. While it probably won't end in catastrophe, it is a short-term bearish thing that is affecting the stock. And like Tom said today, the stock sold off in a pretty strong way right at open, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more, I guess you could say, concerns about serious government action against Google going forward, and that can just make it easier for Google stock to fall. So as we look at this company, it has definitely been relatively weak compared to other big tech stocks, and it'll be important to keep this close on watch, because if it continues to put strong pressure on lows and the sentiment continues to worsen, there should be some good bearish opportunities with this one, again, in a short-term sense. And Tom, what I would personally love is for Google stock to take a big hit off of this news and to continue to sell off over the coming weeks and months, so that maybe it could offer a good buying opportunity for the long term, because Google's definitely a powerhouse, and I would love to have some exposure to this one, especially over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and we see this happen to some of these bigger tech stocks every once in a while, where they'll take like a lot of flack in the short term and they'll start coming right back. Apple had that happen earlier this year, actually. From the beginning of the year to like May of this year, Apple was taking a hit. They were down. What did we hear? We heard like iPhone sales dropping in China, and all, people were talking down a lot on Apple, right? And then Apple started recovering right back up. It created a really good dip buy opportunity over those next couple months there. And I think that with Google and Goog here, that will provide about the same opportunity. But Mike, I know I've been eyeing up the stock quite a bit here on this drop. It looks pretty nasty. And in the short term, it's actually rejecting off of like a pretty big resistance as well, where it's rejected a few other times in the past. So, if it keeps rejecting here, it's not going to be a good sign on the daily chart. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it maybe test like the 150 support over the next few weeks.
Yeah, hopefully it does. But either way, keep it close on watch. The more pressure it puts on its lows, the stronger the sell-off will become. And again, keep a close eye on the sentiment associated with Google stock, because a couple of years ago, Meta got taken to the woodshed, we'll say, as everyone was just freaking out about the company, and it actually ended up falling by, let me pull it up on the chart right now, it ended up falling by like 77% from its highs, and it offered one of the best buying opportunities in the market over like the past couple of years. So I don't think Google will get to this extent, but the main point is that sentiment is important. So either way, that's the story with Google. But on a different note, I saw that Cisco, CSCO, reported earnings and after hours today, and the stock is moving to the upside quite a bit.
Yeah, it's doing fantastic, and I was looking at the move from the closing price to the high of after hours so far. It's like 6.6%, right around there, so pretty respectful for a stock where the average percent move is only 0.52% over the past year. But you're looking more at the earnings by Cisco, Mike. They beat on EPS, they beat on revenue, which was great. They did say that they were cutting 7% of their workforce, which that sounds negative, but sometimes that can be a positive for companies, obviously not for the people who work there, but nonetheless, looking at what they said though, one of the things I really liked is that they said that they're doing a restructuring plan where they're going to be resulting in $1 billion in pre-tax charges, which will allow them to invest in key growth opportunities to drive more efficiencies in the business. So, they're doing a restructuring plan, which is great. And whenever I go look at Cisco stock, especially on a daily chart, they have been stuck in the mud for like 5 or 6 years now, Mike. It's been a long time that they've been stuck in this range. And, this might be exactly what they need, like a good plan going forward to, get business going again.
Yeah, so keep this stock on the radar as well for a potential earnings continuation play. There's a lot of momentum with it, and this stock doesn't really move too often, and positive sentiment is building with it. So again, keep it on watch. But Tom, we actually have quite the earnings lineup tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we do. There's a lot of China stocks, Mike, and we talk about these stocks quite a bit, which is BABA and JD tomorrow. So right before open, those two will be huge. Walmart is going to be huge as well. Walmart could actually report some numbers that might even give people an insight on how consumers are doing in the short term. Like they could say people are buying less or trying to save or etc. So I'm curious what they end up reporting. But those are the big three tomorrow morning, Mike. In after hours, Applied Materials does report, but that's pretty much it for the lineup.
Sounds good. So be ready for those. And then the economic schedule is pretty dead relative to what we saw, I guess you could say, in the first half of this week. But for tomorrow, we do have retail sales data set to come out 1 hour before market open. And then on Friday, we do have like building permits and housing starts and then Michigan consumer sentiment. But realistically, the economic schedule isn't all that for the rest of the week. So we are in the clear just to trade the price action, which is a good thing. So one stock I'm watching pretty closely right now is still PayPal, and it's still to the upside. I know I talked about this one in yesterday's video, and while it had a good day today, I think it definitely has more gas left in the tank. Looking at PayPal stock, again, it has been pretty strong in the short term. It's making higher lows, and it's one of those stocks that over the past couple of years is still pretty oversold, which offers a good opportunity with this one because it kind of acts as a place where investors can resort to in a time where many other, especially technology-related stocks, are at valuations that are pretty aggressive and at chart levels that are pretty overextended to the upside. But either way, looking at PayPal, I really like the short-term price action, and it's definitely on my bullish radar going forward. One thing worth noting, though, with PayPal and with all other setups is that if the market itself starts to, turn to the downside in a pretty major way, there's really no point trying to force a bullish play, especially on a stock like PayPal.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And looking at PayPal, I love that price action today. It broke well above that high of day yesterday and really continued today. So I'm definitely going to keep it on the radar for tomorrow. I love that daily chart of PayPal with how high it's getting. It's definitely testing those resistances and potentially starting to break through. So with my first play, I'm actually looking at Microsoft, and we're going to be looking at the book map on this one. So in after hours, Microsoft is moving up pretty well. If we go to a 5-minute chart, it's running up, Mike, with Cisco, I guess. But nonetheless, it's moving in a great way, and I'm really watching 420 over the next couple of days. I'm going to be looking for a push into 420 tomorrow, and then I'll be looking for a breakout above there. But you can see on the book map, 420 is a major level here. 418 was pretty major as well, but as I said, we're now above there in after hours. If I move the book map over, you can see how we're now above that 418 range, but nonetheless, I'll be looking for a breakout above 420 over the next couple days, and if we end up rejecting at 420, then I will adapt and look at a rejection back down. I am somebody that's a little bit worried about some of these stocks being slightly overextended in the short term. Like, it's great to see stocks coming up off the dip, but it's getting a little bit too high in the short term.
No doubt. And like you said, 420 is a major resistance level, not only in the chart, but also on Bookmap. So good stuff there. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Google, and it's to the downside. So we covered this one a good amount in today's video, but basically the sentiment's pretty bearish. The stock has been making lower highs pretty consistently in the short term, and this stock is one of the big tech stocks leading, or I guess you could say putting a lot of bearish pressure on the market overall, especially if we see Google retest the $158 level. I will be pretty bearish on Google. I really like the reward to risk, especially with this ever-increasing bearish momentum, and it'll definitely be on my radar for tomorrow.
Yeah, I love it to the downside. I mean, whenever you talk about breaking up a company like that, that's definitely big news. And of course, like that's not set in stone. That might not even end up happening, right? But whenever you do end up talking about that, that is a very negative, it puts a negative connotation on that stock in the short term, and that's just kind of where it drives the sentiment. So I'm definitely with you, Mike. I'll be watching this one down as well. And with my next play, I have a bit of a weirder one here, one that I don't mention too often, and that is Beyond Meat. So Beyond Meat had some decent earnings, or I will say at least a decent reaction following their earnings a couple weeks ago. and I'm going to continue to watch this one on the dip. So I like how it's starting to bounce off support a bit, and if it ends up running back above resistance tomorrow at $5.80, I will be watching it back to the upside. Whenever you go to the daily chart, it's starting to test major support, and I love that earnings action. So I'll be looking for more of a continuation with that positive sentiment. But of course, if we wake up tomorrow morning and this stock is rejecting and we're not breaking out above 580 in any good way, don't play it.
This stock has fallen from the sky, Tom. I almost forgot about it, honestly. I remember back in like 2019 and 2020, this stock was having some crazy like 200 to 300% swings pretty often, and it's down, what is that, 98% from its highs. So yeah, this one's been pretty rough, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for short-term trading, because sometimes when you have stocks like this that get hammered so low, it makes them so much more susceptible to a short squeeze, and then once they do start moving, the stock can get very crazy very quickly. So good stuff there, and I'll also keep it on watch. But besides that, we are all set for today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have LMT to the upside.
Yeah, Lockheed Martin's actually at new all-time highs. I can't believe I'm saying that, but you go out to the daily chart, these defense stocks have been on fire. So if Lockheed Martin continues to break out above that recent resistance and breaks the high of day today, right around 564.30, then we'll keep watching it to the upside.
Yeah, business is booming for these defense companies. We have the whole situation in Ukraine. We have the Middle East tensions rising, and we might even see, unfortunately, some action in Asia. But either way, I know these defense companies are loving that news. But good stuff there with that setup, Tom. With the next one, we have Palantir also to the upside.
Yeah, Palantir had a pretty good recovery day today, up 2%. They've been moving very well in the short term, and they popped above 30, which is a good thing to see. So if they can re-break that high of day around 31.40, keep watching them for the breakout.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Coinbase for both directions.
Coinbase is pretty wild right now. They're right around $200 a share. So if they start to rip above 200 tomorrow, go ahead and watch them to the upside. That could be a pretty good move. But they did make a bit of a triple bottom today, right around this 192.50 support. So if they end up breaking under that, then watch them back down.
There we go. So we have the downside level for a potential move lower, and then we have the upside level for a potential move higher with Coinbase. Don't forget about the levels with Palantir and Lockheed Martin for potential upside moves. But either way, these three stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow, if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. The stronger and more consistent they move, the better the setups become. And if the stocks don't break the levels listed, then do not force the setups, especially in a relatively choppy market like the one we're in now. But those are today's momentum plays. So let's jump right into today's $500,000 big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol ROIV. So this is another biotechnology related stock, and it has been uptrending in a pretty strong way over like the past couple of years. It's been really stuck in this channel between like $10 a share and like $12 a share, and it's getting towards that higher end of the channel. And the big money just put $500,000 into the 12 strike call options that expire on September 20th of 2024. What I thought was very interesting about this company is how heavily skewed the call and put volume is. For example, today's call volume for ROIV across all strike prices and all expirations was 24,100 contracts. The put volume was 68 contracts. And then the call open interest and put open interest is pretty heavily skewed as well. But we're definitely seeing a lot of bullishness on the options chain here with the stock. Of course, there is always a risk that the traders in this scenario can be shorting the options, but overall, I really like the reward to risk with these call options, and they will definitely be more risky than the average big money play due to the type of stock that this is. Biotechnology stocks are some of the most volatile, crazy stocks out there, which is a good thing and a bad thing when you're long volatility, but understand that there will be a lot of variance with a trade like this one.
Yeah, and you can see over the past year how choppy this stock has been. It's been bouncing in this channel that Mike talked about pretty well. So for the most part, it's been in here for a long time. They might be looking for a break of the channel. Maybe they know something that we don't. That's what I love about the big money. Sometimes they have that extra knowledge, so to say, right? Now, of course, we don't know exactly what the big money's doing, but sometimes, especially with these types of stocks, Mike, like these science stocks, as biopharma stocks, etc., we do see some breakthroughs or some major news start to come out and see some good breakouts. So overall, I like it. I will say just be a little bit aware of the resistance right here. Just keep that in mind. It might be a play that you need to at least look at the risk a little bit harder on, right? Don't over leverage on this one at resistance.
No doubt. But, as we look at the market overall, we're at a very interesting point where the news and sentiment surely isn't the best, and it's not like we have that much euphoria. Looking at today's heat map, sure, it was nice to see some stocks in the green, but like you pointed out with NVIDIA earlier in the video, it's not like the stock was truly moving in a euphoric, powerful way. It was more so the stock had a decent green day, and that was that. So as we look at the market right now, we've recovered quite a bit over the past week, and we have some heavy resistance overhead, and we're seeing mixed sentiment. So this definitely makes me skeptical heading into the next couple trading days. I have no real directional bias right now, but I'm definitely willing and quick. I'm quick and willing to adapt to the direction and momentum as it changes. But let's keep an extra close eye on big tech stocks over these next couple days. Looking at a heat map like the one on TradingView is great because it'll show you you could just see very clearly how the big tech stocks like Apple, NVIDIA, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, and Amazon, and all the other ones are moving. And then most of the time, given how heavy of a weighting that these big tech stocks have, the market will move alongside with them. So definitely keep these stocks on watch very closely over the next couple days.
Yeah, these big tech stocks are pretty major, Mike. And, like you said, they do move with the market a lot. Even NVIDIA today, we look at SPY, it dipped down a little bit and SPY started chopping towards the end of day. Now, is the price action 1-to-1? Of course not, but it's pretty close, right? And that's how it usually is with these larger tech stocks. Apple had a very similar setup to SPY today as well with all that chop. So sometimes, that's just how it is with the market. But I did like how Google was moving a little bit differently today, and that's going to be one to maybe keep watching on the radar for a bit of an outlier. But, Mike, looking at the SPY here in the short term, there's a pretty big resistance today, right around 545. So I think that'll be major to watch for tomorrow. I've been watching 544 to 543.50 closely here, and we started to see a pretty good break above that today. So if we continue to break out above 545, I'll be watching 546, 548, and then 550 to the upside tomorrow. If we do end up falling back down, I'll be watching support around 540, 542, and 538. Of course, there's a lot more down here. Go ahead and screenshot this if you guys want to see all the supports that I have. But honestly, Mike, we could be here all night long listing off these SPY supports.
Seriously. One other thing, if you guys are new to the channel, consider demolishing that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. We post all the time and cover everything you have to know about the markets in usually 20 to 25 minutes or less. But we also want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Mr. J in the StockedUp Discord. They've been super active for months now, and they had a great day today with SPY. So awesome job there, Mr. J, and keep up the great work going forward. If you guys are into short-term trading and you haven't already tried Bookmap, definitely consider checking it out. It's a great time, especially considering the market is getting pretty choppy, and it'll be almost more important than ever before to be aware of key levels before the stock gets to those levels, right? We could see with Microsoft that $420 resistance is made more than clear as we could see the sell orders just sitting there waiting. If you guys want to try it out, use that first link in the description in the comments down below because you will save. A special offers tab pops up, and then that is where the savings come into play. So definitely check it out. Besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's have a great day in the market tomorrow.